Anyway. But that said, we're going to read this editorial, which is all of a page and a little bit in bioethics. This is by Udo Schuklenk. Udo Schuklenk. I don't know what. Yeah, Udo Schuklenk. Don't know. Yeah, it's called "Ethics of a Pandemic of Deliberate Health Misinformation from Abortion Care to Vaccines." You just read a book by Hans von Forster in which he goes crazy about it, and that's why you mentioned it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, people get worked up about their philosophy. That's true. All right, so as always, my first time reading this, and then we get to review it at the end. It'll take a few seconds. Just stick around and you tell me what you think. If you don't have any questions, feel free to ask. The link will be below in the notes for people watching on YouTube. Shoe means shoe in German. Okay, so clanky shoe. All right. Much has been written about the decline of legacy. All right, you know what? Let's zoom in on this a little bit because it's about 4 pages total. And we got 2 columns here. I'm sorry. This is what happens every time. Okay. Tindaris lurks. Good luck. Be safe. Don't get caught. Thanks for the lurk. Yeah, get to fucking bed, Tindaris. You were already in Germany. It's getting kind of late. Much has been written about the decline of legacy publishing models like newspapers. Much has also been written about the parallel rise of misinformation disseminated on internet platforms like X, TikTok, Instagram, and others. X would be Twitter for all you people out there. For some belonging to an older generation, it is stunning to see that a convicted child abuser like Ruby Frank, who gave child education advice to parents on her popular YouTube channel, managed to attract 2.5 million viewers. She pleaded guilty to torturing her kids. Ooh, that's creepy. Clearly, many internet netizens of the post-newspaper era are not the most discerning audience members. And don't get me started on the massive amounts of anti-vaccine misinformation disseminated successfully during the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, we already have the get off my lawn thing happening right here. This is very get off my lawn. Misinformation has always been around, and the idea that like newspapers were somehow immune to this is wrong. Just like false. Anyway, what is oftentimes overlooked. Yeah, see, they're using oftentimes. Come on, they're even leaning into the old-timey speak here. What is oftentimes overlooked is that efforts at manipulating vulnerable populations into acting in particular ways that may not be in their best interest has a history going back much longer. Arguably, the internet turbocharged some of these efforts, but this has been happening for a long time. Yeah, you yell at a lot of clouds these days, to be honest. Exactly. Well, I mean, we're all just Globus the Elder, aren't we? He's just the old lefty yelling at clouds now. It's like, we're all just Globus the Elder. A case in point is brick-and-mortar pregnancy crisis centers. They exist in many countries, including, for instance, the United States and Canada today. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, in a fact sheet, notes that they typically target marginalized and vulnerable populations, in particular people of color, young people, and under-resourced people who are struggling to afford an abortion. There have even been conspiracy newspapers. Yes, Darius. Okay, and so yeah, these pregnancy crisis centers, their objective invariably is to manipulate a pregnant woman into considering having an abortion that is considering having an abortion into not having one. Lay people with no relevant professional expertise masquerade oftentimes for good measure in white coats as counselors when really their agenda is manipulation. A litany of misinformation is typically provided to the information-seeking pregnant women. In jurisdictions where there are time limits on abortion, efforts are made to ensure pregnant women miss the window during which they can legally access an abortion, and the list of misconduct goes on. Sometimes healthcare professionals serve on the boards of directors of such establishments, but usually there are exceptions. They themselves do not directly engage in the spreading of misinformation. Instead, pregnant women seeking unbiased information will be seen by trained advocates, as the Cheka Megon Pregnancy Center in Wisconsin puts it so deceptively. The pregnancy center in Sanford, Florida, meanwhile provides on its website misleading information on the morning after pill, despite the known safety profile of the pill having led to its availability as over-the-counter medication across the European Union member states. Images of medical equipment and machinery feature prominently on the photos of many of these centers. Anyone can buy them after all. Don't yell at them, smoke them instead, and with the good advice. What is interesting is that arguments invoking the ethical and fiduciary obligations of its professionals vis-a-vis their patients do not apply here, precisely because these establishments deliberately mislead their clients or customers into thinking that they are professional healthcare facilities when they are nothing of that sort. While the pregnant woman might consider herself a patient for all intent and purposes, she is not. No formal fiduciary healthcare professional-patient relationship was ever entered into. You're in Florida, and yes, people with credentials sell out at their ethics and lie. Well, you don't only have to be in Florida to do that. We do that plenty here in New York. It's just usually our lawyers and bankers. Ann says, do you know how many people quit smoking tobacco from those horrible pictures on the packages? 0. I don't know. Like, maybe it's 0. I know that when I was in Canada, because they do that in Canada, and they don't do that here in the United States, that it was like a little bit like, oh shit, that is kind of disgusting. Maybe it just makes me feel better for not smoking, and I like that, but yeah, I don't know if it actually does anything. I wonder, there has to be some study on that, though. I don't see why they'd bother otherwise. I know that not a single smoker you've known has quit because of them. Yeah, maybe what it might help do is, would you think it might help people from starting smoking? Like, it prevents people from like going out and buying it. They see that and they'd be like, maybe I won't start. Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, so I've seen those before. But like, we don't have them in the United States as far as I know, and freedom of speech and all that. But I've seen it in other places. We know and we don't care. Yeah, that's usually like, that's the thing. When you tell a smoker, oh, smoking is bad for you. Yeah, they fucking know. They don't need you to tell them that. Like, everyone knows nowadays. That's what I'm thinking, Adam Fighter. It might be a deterrent, but again, we need the numbers. Like, just because I think it's a deterrent doesn't mean it is a deterrent. Yeah. It wouldn't be for non-smokers because they don't buy packets, they don't see them. Oh, see, in the U.S. and in Canada, like they did start covering up the packets, but before they were covered up, then they had the like just weird pictures. You used to be able to see them. So yes, yeah, it's different. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. They did just change the law in the U.S. that like more bankers you're allowed to lie more as a banker to your customers, depending on who you are. That you are not actually providing the financial services that are in the best interest of the client. You can lie and be like, oh no, these are the best, even though it's better for you than for them. And they just changed that a few years ago. I think that was during Trump. But yeah, so. Okay, so we're talking about these fake abortion clinics. That does not mean that other ethical arguments do not apply here. For starters, clearly the provision of information that is misleading and manipulative is unethical because it prevents people from making autonomous choices. It is harmful. It is also harmful if it manipulates pregnant women into missing abortion-related timelines that prevent them from having an abortion because they eventually are so far down the track of their pregnancy that legally they cannot access an abortion. Yeah. They're taking away autonomy. You shouldn't be doing that. You should give people more autonomy, not less autonomy. People visiting these establishments for advice may be further misled by placing trust in these organizations because they oftentimes are registered charities. Charities are oftentimes they got to stop using oftentimes. They're completely overusing this word. Charities are often mistakenly assumed to serve uncontroversially the public good, but clearly that isn't quite the case here. Interestingly, having clicked the donate button on some of these make-believe health clinics websites, I was quickly taken to a registered religious charity, so at that point it is clear that one isn't actually supporting a clinic, but the religiously motivated deception of vulnerable people in a make-believe clinic setting. Pretending to be a clinic when one is patently not is in its own right quite eye-opening because it demonstrates how far religious extremists are willing to go in their quest to shape the world according to their religious beliefs. The question arises, of course, how societies should approach the regulation of these establishments. Unsurprisingly, the proprietors of these non-clinic clinics will be quick to make religious freedom claims to justify their right to exist. Remarkably, U.S. federal courts apparently decide that because these establishments provide such misleading information free of charge, the government can neither compel disclosure to correct false and misleading information about the services offered by these clinics, nor regulate any false or misleading advertisements made by the clinics. Yeah, I mean, the government in the U.S. is not going to get itself in the business of telling people that they're lying unless it's specifically doing something harmful to the people. And of course, the government isn't saying, like, the fact that you don't get an abortion when you are healthy is not going to be something the U.S. government's going to say is harmful. This strikes the author, a non-lawyer, as implausible. It seems to me that the relationship the clients entered into with these establishments were based on false representations about who they are to begin with, regardless of whether the information was free or charged for. How can the determining factor be whether the service was charged for or not when it led to demonstrable harm? It is difficult to find a suitable term to describe the victims of these establishments. Clearly, they are not patients. Are they consumers of a kind or clients? I have a great difficulty in accepting those labels, either given that the relationship is based on deceptive activities. These women would likely not have consented to ultrasound and counseling activities had they understood that they were not in a proper healthcare facility. Whatever consent was given under false assumptions about the nature of these establishments surely is null and void. Anyone acting on that information who suffers harmful consequences, such as being unable to terminate an unwanted pregnancy, should be able to receive some form of compensation from whoever maneuvered them into that outcome. Okay, so what do we do? What do you think? People deserve the truth. Whose truth? What truth? The religious people be like, God's truth. We give them God's truth. This is God's truth. Where are the stats? Yeah, this happens. Meh. Yeah, this is kind of like, oh, I'm very angry. There's bad people doing bad things out there. This is very mad. It's like, all right, no shit. You know what's really annoying here? From abortion care to vaccines, they barely talked about vaccine misinformation. I was hoping it is not worth taking much time to evaluate. Yeah. It's like, okay, yes, people are being misled and it's bad. I think I summarized it. Okay. It's like, okay, this is just they're angry. And not much of philosophical content got said. It was more like a rant at the bar. Yeah, this is an editorial, but like still, this is not even giving a whole lot of content. This could have been a tweet. Yeah, this is it. All right, let's give it a quick review. I'll tell you, it's not going to be very good. Even for just an editorial, this was weak sauce. Exactly. So let's give it a quick review. Anyone here? So this is going to get some Nog Grapes. Nog Grapes is for it had a great title. We're going to talk about the ethics of deliberate misinformation in a pandemic, from abortion care to vaccines. None of that shit came out, really. They were just angry about some misinformation. Okay, so you're going to get some Nog Grapes. That big old start you started with, it did not pan out. Nog Grapes. That's what you're getting. You're getting a few of these. Nog Grapes. We're going to get a vote nay. And that's about it. I don't think I have a whole lot else to say. They didn't do anything fancy here. Like, it doesn't even rise to the level of the golden turd. It wasn't even golden. It didn't even look good. This was just like a rant, as you said. But thank you for the review to Darius, Unreal Brian, and Infernal. I appreciate it. This will all go up as soon as I get a fucking moment to breathe in my life. What, all style and no substance? Yeah, there was no style here. Where was the style? I didn't see any style. This is just them being angry. There's no style. Like, I use the golden turd a lot of times for, like analytic philosophy. They had like, a fancy equations or something. And then like all of a sudden, like, oh, their fancy equations don't really amount to anything. It's still crap. So it's like, yeah. Or they had like some fancy argumentation. Oh, they had like all these like, some fancy logic, or they made some cutesy argument. But like in the end, the answer wasn't there. Like, it didn't get them the result they wanted. That's when you get it. This is something that promised an argument, and it didn't even deliver with style. If it had any style, then it could get the golden turd, at least in my opinion. But like, yeah, it's just bad.